President Trump is pushing as hard as he can to make America healthy again. We've got RFK Jr. in place. We've got Pam Bondi, who can start going after some of these crooks for the COVID lockdowns. To help me go through some of the biggest news stories, I have Dr. Joel Kahn. Dr. Kahn, thank you for joining me today.
Total pleasure. Great topic.
Yeah, so just some background on Dr. Kahn. Medical doctor, specialty in cardiology. He's also a professor. I don't know if you saw this or not, but a DC judge ruled that President Trump and the White House must unfreeze taxpayer money that was earmarked to be sent to foreign nations, whether it's bad or corrupt or fraud or money laundering. This judge says if it was earmarked, it must go out. As a taxpayer, as an American, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I can't speak to the law and the precedents, and that'll be for the judicial system to figure it out. But, I'm so sick and tired of us not making America first. And, that's what the campaign ran on. It resonated with all kinds of sectors of the American public. And I think that's what people are seeing, that we've got an administration fighting hard for America, bringing companies back to America, having an energized military back in America, and so many other benefits. So I hope this does get blocked and the administration can do what they want to do, which is, focus internally. Do we have problems? Do we need to address a lot of things in the United States without being distracted by all kinds of external forces? I feel strongly, keep our taxes in America. And God knows I pay a lot of taxes.
Yes, I imagine as a physician, but yeah, I just couldn't believe that. It's like, okay, whether this money is used for good or not, you must take that American taxpayer money and release it. I know Trump is not happy about it. I know Elon Musk is not happy about it. I'm not happy about it. It's just kind of crazy to me that the judicial branch overrides a president even after they found corruption.
Yeah, we don't need to be buying more condoms in Gaza or any other country outside the United States. And I still believe that's probably a true report that many of us read a couple of weeks ago. Let's use it for making America healthy again, bringing down our deficit, which is choking us left and right, and rebuilding this country, which had basically been ignored by the prior administration the last 4 years.
Yeah. As a doctor, you see a lot of Americans, good, bad, healthy, overweight, underweight, heart problems, not heart problems. What was your thought during the lockdowns where President Biden tried to force an experimental medical therapy? They call it a vaccine, but it was really a medical therapy onto the American people, onto the military, onto the American worker. Meanwhile, he's letting 15 million people from 140 different nations with different diseases and medical background. What were your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I was trained classically at University of Michigan and University of Texas and other academic centers. And we sort of had an expectation that we analyze, we discuss, we have panels, we have experts, we debate. And truly, this is the first time in my case, a 35 plus year career as a cardiologist, a debate was banned. And I couldn't understand it. I personally had a mild case of COVID end of 2020, and everybody said, don't get the vaccine for a while. You got natural immunity. That was the first time I really started to read deep on the topic of vaccination. It isn't a cardiology topic generally, tangentially. And I kept coming across, you got natural immunity. My hospital didn't care. My governor didn't care. My colleagues didn't care. And then it just spread everywhere. And, when there was no conversation except a needle in every arm, I started to smell a rat. And I found, colleagues who also were smelling the rat. But there was a heavy price to pay. I treated many people during the pandemic with, those drugs that were not approved by the government, but were repurposed and clearly had promise. I saw amazing results treating people. It just made no sense that we let people suffer and die when we had all kinds of access to early treatment strategies. So I am so refreshed to see that it appears we'll have a conversation and be more prepared should we ever get another pandemic, which I think is pretty likely.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, others, they said, you know, the first thing that you do is you go to the medication that we already have and you see, okay, how could we repurpose that? But do you think because a lot of the medications that were working are maybe the lower price medications, the generic medications, or do you think that there was something more nefarious where Dr. Anthony Fauci and Collins and others, it was like the only way out of this pandemic is through Pfizer and Moderna?
Yeah, it turns out I actually trained Dr. Peter McCullough. He was a fellow under me at my hospital in Detroit. He's been a friend of mine for many, many years, and we talk all the time. So I was tracking what he was saying early in the pandemic, and some of the FLCCC docs, Paul Merrick, who I knew out of East Virginia Medical School. And, you know, they were talking about supplements, and I'm a supplement cardiologist. I know supplements. I study supplements, and I knew the power that what they were talking about to support our immune system had good promise and certainly was safe. So why, if it was hopeful and safe, why the heck wouldn't we use it for a disease that we didn't really know the exact treatment strategy? But let's do something. I mean, I'm a cardiologist. You're having a heart attack. I'm not going to, you know, twiddle my thumbs and do nothing. I'm going to treat you. And that's what I wanted to do with patients. So, you know, what was the background to it? Was this all pre-planned? Was it a lab leak that wasn't planned yet? It exploded, and the profitability of it became obvious that there were going to be winners and losers. And, you know, under emergency use authorization, any other therapy that was approved couldn't allow the vaccines to go forward. I think there's a background there. I hope with RFK Jr. and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in there, we're going to start seeing, you know, everything that's hidden show up as much as possible. I'd like to know. I don't know the exact answer. If this was all pre-planned and we were shut down from offering hopeful therapies to people because of profit or pre-planning, you know, we got criminals everywhere if that's really proven to be the case. So we got to see that examined in some Senate hearing or congressional action.
Okay. RFK Jr., you know, a lot of Americans are hopeful. A lot of politicians and people in big pharma are not very excited. But just this week, he did something really big. He canceled the funding for the upcoming marketing push for the seasonal flu vaccine. People are saying, oh my gosh, millions of people are going to die because of RFK Jr. At the same time, he just canceled a trial for an oral vaccine for COVID that had almost no data on it. They were going to put 10,000 Americans on it and see if it did as well as the injections. And he's coming back saying, wait a minute, we don't have good enough data on this. Is the big thing that they're most afraid about with him is that he's going to interrupt the flow of profits? Not that he's going to make America healthy?
Well, I think he's going to require science. I mean, the same rigor, I would hope that, you know, if you're on a prescription drug, you can have some faith that it went through the FDA system and a phase 1, then a phase 2, then a phase 3 trial and follow up on the phase 3 trial. We have some very hopeful cardiology drugs coming out now to prevent heart disease, but they got to go through this long, expensive process. And if they make it through all those hoops, you can have a little confidence that this is going to be something that, you know, if your doctor recommends, you can take. We saw that whole system bypassed. And he's simply, I believe, asking, let's apply the same criteria to vaccinations and other therapies that we do to other FDA approved drugs, but we haven't been, both with the 1986 liability clause for the companies, as well as the actual process of double-blind randomized placebo controls. That is the watchword of all new pharmaceutical agents, but that doesn't happen in the vaccine world at all. There is no double-blind randomized controlled trial. It's usually compared to the previous vaccine version, or sometimes bastardized versions that actually have mercury in them, but not an actual placebos. We just don't know. And it's time for America to have answers to these questions. How effective is the flu vaccine? What's the real spectrum of side effects? Are there natural therapies that can prevent, as simple as nasal and oral irrigation and vitamin support? I hope we do what we do in the rest of medicine. We get a panel, we get experts, and they look at this and they design properly created studies. So I'm hopeful this is going to move quality of care ahead. It's going to be completely disruptive, but quality of care. I mean, do I see people vaccine injured in my cardiology clinic on a regular basis? I do. And, they don't feel they have a voice, but now they feel that they may have a voice.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The guy with no voice became a voice for becoming healthier. Right?
Yeah, and it's ironic. And now people are saying that may have been a influenza vaccine.
Yes, I read that just the other day that they believe it might have been vaccine damage from a flu shot. I do worry about RFK Jr.'s safety. I mean, his uncle was assassinated, his father was assassinated, and that wasn't even really over. We're talking billions and billions of dollars that he threatens to redirect. I mean, not even get rid of, but just redirect and try to make America healthy. Do you worry for his safety?
Yeah, I do. And I think, my family and I often, literally pray for the safety of President Trump and his family and his team, and certainly RFK and his family and his wife. And I think they're real concerns. I hope to God that the Secret Service and the new reinvigorated FBI and the leadership, which is just transformative, will protect them. But it's a big and difficult burden, I'm sure, and it's certainly outside my expertise. Yeah, I'm worried.
Yeah. Okay. So you have specialized in cardiology. The heart is such a fascinating organ. But I feel like America is different than it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Americans are heavier than we've ever been. We have more comorbidities than ever. You compare us to Europe and other countries, our death rates and just our overall lifestyle. Where do you think a lot has gone wrong? Is it the food? Is it the chemicals in food? Is it where do you think things started to change for American health?
Yeah, I think there are a few bright spots. We used to, after World War II, 50% of Americans were smokers. And on average, it's down to about 11%. But sadly, in the young kids, it's a little higher than that if you include vaping and cigarette smoking. So we've made a big inroad there. But everything else has been disrupted. We sit more, we watch TV and computers more. We have forgotten how to cook. We don't know how to take a few simple ingredients and make something at home, which proves to be more nutritious, less expensive. You can control the sourcing. I think, there's clear data after World War II when a lot of moms went back to work and had to outsource food and bring it in and fast food. There's no doubt. Do I think in the last 20 years that chemicals have added to the problem? There's not even a question about it. The buzzword now is microplastics. The last year, study after study, whether we got microplastics in our plaque in our arteries, which is still unclear how much harm it's doing, but it shouldn't be there. We've got it in our brain, according to a new report. And the more memory issues you have, the more microplastics you have in your brain. Interesting to see if we could figure out how many the former president might have in his brain. No disrespect to him, but it's medical science. We should be allowed to talk about it. We got microplastics in our sex organs. But when you get down to we're spraying pesticides and herbicides, we're really putting our gut health, something the famous Hippocrates is supposed to have said over 2,000 years ago, that all disease begins in the gut, according to a Greek philosophical teaching, but also the Ayurvedic teaching, all health begins in the gut, and many other traditions. We're just got it under attack. We got it under attack with modified wheats. We got it under attack with glyphosates, these Roundup sprays that are all over our food. Just run a little urine test. You can do it easily. you'll see how much glyphosate, and we all have it. I have it. I've done the test. I've done microplastic tests. Wow. Atrazine. Oh my God, what a scary herbicide, pesticide. It's in our food supply. So I've been friends with the food babe for over a dozen years. Following her work is just one prominent voice of sanity. And that's why I love Robert Kennedy Jr., because if he gets nothing done in 4 years, but improves the quality of food and health in children, forget about the rest of us, because we'll have to wait a generation for those children to grow up and be healthy adults, hopefully. We can just get children to have lower rates of autism, lower rates of ADHD, lower rates of obesity, lower rates of type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance and metabolic disorders. We'll bring future back to this country. But I agree with you. The hospitals are full of, it's no fat shaming, but overweight people with blown out joints and blown out back and blown out diabetes and blown out hearts and dementia and oral health issues. I mean, they all fit together as a functional medicine cardiologist, which I am. It's all lifestyle related, largely food, but also our sedentary activity, our shortened sleep pattern. Yeah. Just got to teach self-care.
Yeah. You mentioned, smoking. I read a year ago that sitting is the new smoking, where just not getting up and going for walks and moving our body as much has been such an issue. Was it also, you mentioned Hippocrates, didn't he also say, let our food be our medicine and our medicine be our food? Was he the guy that said that?
According to X and TikTok, that's what he said. We have a little trouble verifying some of these, attributions.
Yeah.
It's a great quote, and we should all use it. I'm at a standing desk right now. That's not as good as a treadmill desk, because at least then you are moving, but they're both better than sitting. And I see patients all day long at a standing desk with short breaks in between. But we know that if you have a job or an occupation or a situation where you have to sit most of the day, try and it could be 45 seconds of doing some squats, up and down, or stretches, but just get up off your poor health buzzer, which you can also call your rear end, and get up now and then and move around. Yes. Yeah. I agree. It's, certainly been a decade that we've been teaching sitting is the new smoking. Now it's, environmental toxins is the new smoking. I think is even a newer scare, but an appropriate scare.
Yeah. Well, hopefully like you said, hopefully RFK Jr. can work through some of that. I've been learning a lot about gut health, serotonin in the gut, diabetes, digestion. Like there's so much that goes through the stomach into the intestines that really affects us. I know that, like me, you're a big fan of kimchi one, and the benefits of that. Why specifically is kimchi good for the gut? I know it has to do with good bacteria and bad bacteria, but help me understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting, great question. But like we say, food is medicine. Well, I mean, we're talking about the ability to digest food, absorb nutrients, but we also have to keep our gut barrier strong. So we keep toxic substances out of the body, keep them in the intestine, and we only allow nutrition to get in. And people have heard the term leaky gut. And leaky gut has to do with heart disease. Leaky gut drives inflammation, and there's ways to test for it. But our gut is under bombardment by what's going on. So we need solutions. And in the medical literature, there's a term called functional foods. Foods that do more than just taste good and generally are felt to be healthy. Broccoli would be an example of functional food. There's so much science, but the actual biochemistry. But then you get to kimchi. And a few listeners may realize I didn't grow up in a Korean household growing up. But, I'm a connoisseur, particularly of healthy, flavorful, and plant-based foods. I love fiber, anything that comes from a plant rich in fiber. So I've been eating kimchi for a long time. But actually, I got struck, very honestly. I read a research article, the first in the world, actually, of a randomized study. That means top quality science of kimchi versus placebo. Now, the only way you could possibly do that is if you do it with capsules. So they were kimchi capsules versus placebo capsules on blood sugar, on blood cholesterol, on gut health, on gut bacteria, and actually on your body weight. And, you know, I'm dealing with heavy patients and they're asking for Mounjaro, they're asking for Ozempic, and I'll do that when needed, but I'm also looking for natural solutions. And here's a report that says a food I'm eating in a capsule form can actually influence weight in the way we want it, to be able to control it better by being probiotic rich, fiber rich. Plus, it's partly the seasonings of kimchi. It's the red pepper, cayenne pepper, it's the garlic, it's the onion that all have health properties, functional food. So, you know, it's a many $1,000-year-old food from Korea that's become popular in the United States in the last few decades. But the several hundred scientific studies that kimchi is it's easy to say superfood. Everybody likes that term, a functional food. Kimchi is great. But when I realized, when I read this research article in the fall of 2024, I couldn't find kimchi capsules. And I said, this would be easy to teach my patients because they're not all going to accept kimchi as a food. I looked, and then one day just watching a video, it was a political video, there was on the bottom, Kimchi One capsules by Brightcore Nutrition, which was a company new to me. And I actually ordered a bottle, reached out to them. They shared science with me, and I've taken 3 capsules every day since. And I can tell you, I can notice some very helpful differences in my own health. And certainly there's many, many other people that have provided testimonials. But what I love is we have science to base it on.
Yeah.
It's not common that we have supplements that have good science, but Kimchi One is one of them.
And my understanding is it has to do with the bacteria that forms, right? Like our ancient ancestors, they ate more fermented food. Over in Germany, they eat sauerkraut, but Americans, if we're eating McDonald's, you know, that food, you can stick it in a jar, it won't even mold. What's that doing to our gut compared to like kimchi or sauerkraut or something like that?
Yeah, we don't think about much, we don't talk about much, but there's actually 7 pounds of bacteria within largely our large intestine, our colon. 7 pounds. It's about the same weight as your liver. And these aren't officially us. These are bacteria. A few of them are viruses and parasites. So it's largely bacteria that are living there, and they're digesting our food, and they're secreting substances, some of which are very healthy for us, something called butyric acid or butyrate, some of which, if they leak through a leaky gut, because we bombarded it with all the kind of stuff RFK Jr. is trying to get out of the food supply, they aren't so good for us. They cause internal inflammation, which can drive disease all through the body. So yeah, we got to call our microbiome, our accumulation, our chia pet collection of bacteria in our gut. We got to call that our friend, and we got to feed it good stuff. And it turns out fermented foods, and kimchi, it's called lactic acid-based fermentation, is a highly fermented food with all these extra spices that add more to it. Plus, it's based usually on Napa cabbage. Cabbage is in that family, like broccoli, cruciferous vegetables, just innately healthy, fiber-rich foods. And it's really all those things together. In this research study that I read, human, double-blind, randomized, high-quality research, there's a cool little bacteria that's called Akkermansia. But anyways, people that eat kimchi have more Akkermansia in their gut. And this is like a superstar right now in GI health. But GI health is heart health, so it's well within my wheelhouse to talk about this. Akkermansia, driven by eating fermented foods like kimchi, like taking Kimchi One capsules, makes that wall of your gut stronger. You don't leak toxic substances from your colon into your body. You lower inflammation. So, the thing I noticed, because I'm a pretty healthy guy, so it's not like I was in pain or all inflamed, but I have 2 testimonials. I usually go about 8 weeks between a haircut. This is very honest. I literally had to get a haircut 3 weeks after the last one, timed to starting Kimchi One. And I had no other explanation for it. It was just like,
wow,
growing. It's true. I'm 66 years old. There's a little thin stuff up here, but boy, it was growing like crazy. And then I'm down in southeastern Florida right now. I have a clinic in Boca Raton, and one of the world's top hair experts, transplant surgeons, is down there. He's a friend of mine. His office is right by mine. I stop by once a year, and he puts this like microscope on your head and he measures hair. He told me 10 days ago, you have had an incredible increase in the density of your hair. I don't see that usually. Whatever you're doing, keep doing. And That's the only thing I've changed in the last 8 weeks is 3 capsules a day of kimchi 1. This is supported by a human study that talks about density of your hair with kimchi. So, it's so cool to tie these things. It's functional food. Eat kimchi, but it's not always practical. So the 3 capsules a day kimchi 1 is so practical. And it really settles well with my gut. No problem at all. But to actually, see measurable changes, I'm more concerned than hair. Hair is sort of superficial. But if we can lower cholesterol, lower blood sugar, lower waistline and body weight, which is what the randomized study that I read last fall showed, this is an important advance.
Okay. Very cool. That's very cool. Well, Doctor, I know your time is valuable. Thank you for coming on. Like you, I'm hopeful that Trump will be able to do good things, that the bureaucracy, the deep state, the profit-driven big pharma won't be able to slow RFK Jr. down. One thing I'm encouraged about after meeting him in person, and I know you met him in person as well, is he's just incredibly driven. Like I don't think much is going to stand in his way. He's going to be a force for good for making America great and healthy. At least that's my take.
Just to have this conversation. Now, really, we want to have it as a successful conversation. But, I've been practicing medicine, as I said, for 35 years. It's not been part of the national scene to talk about making children healthy and reversing chronic disease and using nutrition and functional medicine to help America. God knows this is exciting. I think he's going to be successful, and I'm going to support him every way I can. I think America will come around to the idea that this is as important as national defense. Our health, kimchi 1, these are all national defense issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We'll have you on again in the future for medical questions and different things like that. But thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Dr. Khan. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor today, and that is Brightcore Nutrition. If you want to learn more about kimchi, I highly recommend that you call the 888-908-4425 number. You can speak with one of their health experts. This stuff is incredible. I have felt more energy. I feel healthier. I've even started giving it to my 10-year-old who has gut issues. I'm trying to rebuild my own leaky gut from having COVID. So if you go to the link down below, you can get 25% off, or the QR code. Just use your phone and snap that, or give them a call. You can get up to 50% off plus free shipping. If it were me, I would make that phone call, get more of a discount, and pick up that free shipping. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and hope you have a great rest of your day.